Y'all know what it is.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Eggs Classics. This week we're digging up an oldie but goodie that is sure to get you fired up about creating a podcast of your very own. If you've ever had any doubts, fears, whatever, that have kept you from taking your voice to the airwaves, you're going to want to hear this week's show. From all the way back in September 2019, today we're featuring special guest Kelly Glover. Kelly is a broadcasting veteran and a podcasting expert who's here to drop an array of knowledge bombs on you, ranging from how and when to start a show to avoiding the dreaded imposter syndrome that may be keeping you from getting started podcasting today. Owner of The Talent Squad, a podcast booking and coaching agency, Kelly has plenty to say, and it's worth a listen. Joining the Eggs team for a chat about running a successful podcast, finding advertisers and sponsors to pay the bills, and how to conquer your fears of getting started. Please join me in re-welcoming from show number 123, our special guest, Kelly Glover.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Eggs. This week we have Kelly Glover. Kelly is the founder of The Talent Squad, a podcast agency based in New York. Her agency facilitates finding guests for your podcast by sourcing, vetting, pre-interviewing, and preparing talent for interviews prior to their appearance on your show. From an early age, Kelly always knew she wanted to be in media and has worked her way up for 18 years to become the founder of her own podcast agency. Kelly has been podcasting since 2007, and in her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family and watching Netflix, as we all do. So without any further ado, welcome to the show, Kelly.
Hi, guys. I have a giant Netflix list at the moment. So much good stuff has come out this year. Like when people say, what do you do? I say, I work, I sleep, I watch Netflix. That's it. Like family is a close third, but Netflix is above them. I won't tell a lie.
Yeah, no, It's actually my biggest problem with Netflix is they generate content so quickly I can't keep up. And then when I do get in there, I feel so overwhelmed that I don't watch anything. And I just tune out and go back to Instagram or something.
Well, when I say Netflix, I'm talking about just watching all the options, not actually watching the show for about an hour.
Well, yeah,
that's my entertainment. Oh, that'd be nice.
That would be good. Let me put that on the list and
Oh.
never
Yes.
watch it. Just have
lists.
I have this curated list of amazing stuff that I've never seen.
Speaking of curation, I'm glad we're all in our uniform today, guys. We all got the memo on what to wear.
That's
black.
right. Synchronized around here. That's what we do. That's why we keep Brandon here off camera. He's wearing plaid. So he's all, colorful and bright. That's why
Yeah, you can't sit at our table, Brandon. You're out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't even have a camera for him because he's
Yeah, we made an executive
he's walking out
decision.
I'll feed us in.
Okay, so it's been fun.
Well, cool. So Kelly, let's get started talking a little bit about who you are, where you come from, what do you do, and we'll go from there.
Well, the accent might tip you off that I'm from Australia,
Oh, really?
but don't be fooled by that because I went to college in Ohio.
Oh,
So Ohio University, Athens, Ohio, not the Ohio State University. That's the
Oh, right.
Buckeyes.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm 41. So I've been working in media, believe it or not, for 18 years. So before Facebook, when we all had paper maps, no one had a mobile phone, podcasts weren't invented. So when I went to university, my degree was for media, but media was not the same beast that it is today. So I found it to be so amazing. Even when I went to radio school, Australian Film, let me get my school right. Australian Film, Television and Radio School, podcasts were just coming in. So it's such an exciting medium to be in. So the journey has been from, it feels like the olden days with a wheel and a stick to like rocket ships.
So you went to school for radio. What type of stuff did they teach you in that program? Because I went to school for recording arts, but not radio specifically. What do they do in a radio program in college?
Yeah, so my Ohio University degree was communications. And then I did a graduate program at the Australian Film, Television and Radio School. That's 1 year. They take 10 people from the whole country. So the fact that I got in is still a miracle.
Oh, yeah, that's incredible.
And it was called commercial radio broadcasting. So they teach you everything it takes to be a radio announcer. I went on to host my own syndicated radio show in Australia. I did the Love Song Dedication show. So my background is in being on air, but then also as a producer. So I've produced branded podcasts for networks and I've worked at a talent agency. So I've sort of seen every aspect of what guests want, what hosts want, what producers want. And then also like I can edit and I can take it from concept to completion. So
Nice.
they even make you do news reading. My God, that is a hard job that no one even understands.
I used to do
It
the
is-
weather every morning. I
Oh,
did a morning show for a while back in Idaho, and I'd read the news and the weather, and it's horrible. It's just like I stumble on myself. And how many times can you say the weather over and over again and change it up and do something different?
yeah, well, that's reading the news. When you have to
Yeah.
write it and you've got to like find the stories and write it and do it in a like I did that for the week that was required and never again.
Never again.
Wow.
No. Mm-mm.
Well, so what drew you to this? I mean, just speaking to you for the brief few minutes that we've been talking, like, I mean, it's pretty clear you've got a big personality, outgoing personality. So were you just sort
I'm
of
very
natural-
shy. I'm
Yeah,
an
right.
introvert. Like
So
it's
were you
like
just
pulling
sort of-
teeth.
Yeah, right. So were you just sort of like drawn naturally into performing arts and radio and all that stuff, or what was it that drew you that direction?
I was in high school in the 90s and I always wanted to be a talk show host. It was the era of Ricky Lake, old school Oprah, Phil Donahue, and I always just thought I would love to be a talk show host. Which is the equivalent of like I want to be a rock star to
Sure.
dream, but I was just like, I'm going to make this happen, and I didn't realize the way that it would happen. But being on a podcast is the version of being a talk show
Yeah,
host.
it's this generation's version of that. For
Yeah.
sure.
It really is.
Mhm.
So in Australia, you did the radio show. It was syndicated. How long did you do that for? And what brought you back to the States? And how'd you get into podcasting? Good question, but talk for the rest of the hour. We're good.
Nah, I'm good. So I did the Love Song Dedication show for 3 hours. So at that time I worked at a radio station, which one of them was the hub and one of them was the local market. So I would do 2 shows at the same time, be barefoot and run between the studios to get the live show one and the one going out to 22 stations. And I would do 6 hours live on air a day. So
Oh,
I
wow.
I once calculated that I'd done more than 5,000 hours live on air. I'd also taken the radio station off air. So like everything that you can consider that you would do wrong as an announcer, I've done it. Talked over songs, had phone
We're still
calls, go
working on
over
that.
songs, took the radio station off air overnight, had songs playing, had faders down, like every single, but then the thing that taught me, it just takes you, it just teaches you to assess a problem and fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and that's the
it's
thing.
what-
I mean,
yeah.
it's so technical, I mean, even just like our little production here with,
Yeah.
multiple cameras and soundboards and cloud lifters and EQs and blah, 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 everything we've got in here. I mean, it's incredible that these 2 guys here can sit and run everything because, I mean, for me, that's wildly complicated. So it's surprising that there aren't more problems, like with these big production companies and everything with leaving faders down and things like that.
Yeah, there's I describe it as I can drive the car, but I don't know how to build the car. So if you ask me to put it together, I can't. But if you put me in front of sit screen faders and I can like do stuff like here's something. Before, when I was at radio school, I used to be sick every time I went on air. I was so nervous, even with this bright personality. And then I got to the point of I would literally be sitting in silence while people are running and screaming at me when the station was off air, and I would feel nothing and I could just open a mic and go. So I think sometimes things terrify you, but you've got a talent for it. And if you push through, you'll be able to do it. So I learned a lot from being a radio announcer. And then you said, why did I come to America? I'd been to college in America. I just didn't have what it took to get through the visa stuff at the time. And I finally got to the point where so I'm an alien of extraordinary ability in my field is my actual legitimate title. I'm not even kidding. So I basically had enough to get me through to be like, yeah, you can come here. You're all right. You can come back in now.
You're a special alien. So
I was like,
okay.
Yeah, you're extraordinary in entertainment and arts. Which annoyed my parents to no end because my whole life, stop talking. Nobody wants to hear you talking. You're never going to get a job doing this. Do your studies. To which I say, hi, Dad. Remember that time? Like, I'm at work now and all I have to do is talk and I'm actually getting paid for it. Thanks.
That's awesome.
So I came to the States, wanted to do radio, quickly found out no one's interested in listening to this voice or at least this accent, and got into podcasts, which again, seemed horrible at the time, had no job, but Turned out to be the best thing ever. No regrets. Loved it.
So did you do that? Was that in 2007 when you started doing the podcast?
No, that was before I went to radio school.
Okay.
So I started in community radio. I was doing improv and thought, oh, community radio, that sounds like fun. I'll just give it a whirl. And then podcasts were just coming out, like iPod. So we would take the songs, we would take the show, take out the songs and take out commercials, and that would be a podcast. That's what a podcast was then. So that's when I started, and then I got into radio school. So I was podcasting before I went to radio school. And then, so that's, I think it was, it was so hard to do it back then. It was so technical. Like, I don't even understand. It was my gosh, it's so much easier today. It's like click and drag. So that's when I got into podcasts, and then I took it through. I had my own podcast. I used to be plus size. I had a plus size show. But I got into it from doing show notes, and then I was a podcast guest booker. And then I took my radio skills and was a producer. So I produced for a women's network in Australia, did 6 shows, 2 branded podcasts, won awards for that. So that was pretty amazing. And then I opened my own agency.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, and it's funny because like for people who are in podcasting and who've been around it for a minute, it feels like kind of it's been around for a while, you know, it's kind of getting old. It's this older technology or whatever. But it's interesting as we talk to a lot of guests and a lot of people that we have on our show, there's so many people that still don't even really know what podcasting is, like, and you actually start to recognize that this is kind of a burgeoning media still, and that there's, you know, infinite amounts of limit still on this thing. And so it's been a lot of fun, you know, we've only been doing this for a little more than 2 years, and it feels like we've been doing it forever, but like we're still the new kids, you know?
Yeah. So when I think that I've been in it for 12 years, that like, people just side eye me. They're like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, to your point. I mean, it's totally different thing now than it was 12 years ago. I mean, the way that people do podcasting, just in terms of modality and everything, but all the way down to subject matter and everything else has changed so much since then.
And I think
go ahead.
People are still looking at podcasts in a very narrow way. They think podcast equals doing a show equals need audience. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. Podcasts, which haven't been discovered to its full extent, like think about using them internally as part of an organization for training. Yeah. Think about them for using them within an organization to keep, like, businesses have problems with people leaving and not staying on for very long and not talking to each other. So what if you could use
a big deal?
Yeah, audience retention. Sorry, employee retention. You know, you've got a millennial sitting next to a baby boomer, and then if you could hear them on a podcast, you're going to be able to connect further and have buy-in from people within the organization. So that's one way to use podcasts. Another way is, and then for organizations like, I don't know, like a UPS or whatever, think about their workforce. They're all drivers in their own little hubs everywhere. But what if the CEO could be in your ear for 30 minutes or even 10 minutes a week? You wouldn't have access to that person for a one-on-one, but if you can get that message across via audio,
instead of a
like who reads an email? I'm not going to read the email. I'm going to read the subject line, delete. Maybe I'll get through a few lines. I haven't actually taken it in, but if your voice is in my head and I can hear you talking about whatever's happening within the organization, I'm going to buy into the purpose of that.
That's very true.
So that's just one way, right? It doesn't have to be an entertainment show or a true crime show.
Well, and another thing with podcasts as well is you can get very niche. I mean, you don't have to talk. You can be like the one guy that is, you know, interested in
X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, and people can totally niche all the way down into those sorts of things.
I heard of a podcast, and now that I'm thinking of it, I feel like I'm making it up, but I'm sure I'm not, about escalators.
Sure. Why not?
I'm sure I heard that once, and it sounds so ridiculous that I'm not even. There's something for everyone.
Why not? Right? There's an industry built up around escalator production and use and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, why not? Why couldn't there be?
The riches are in the niches. It's so true. I believe it. I believe it.
I think that's true. I think, so many people trying, that we meet, especially now, trying to get into podcasting, are really looking for, a large, broad mass audience and things like that. But you're right to that. I mean, this idea of niching down and having, fewer but very supportive fans you'll go way further with that than some broad audience, or you're at least more likely to achieve it.
Let me tell you guys, it's not always the audience that's the target. Sometimes it's the guest. If you are a host of a podcast and you don't have access to other people in your industry, then you have a fancy studio and it's amazing, and you can invite someone that you want to get in touch with into your studio to be a guest. Then that person could potentially be a business partner or a client, and that might be worth $20,000, $100,000. But how much would it take you if you were trying to go out to an audience of a $25 CPM? How many listeners would you need per episode to make that same money? A hell of a lot more.
The
Yeah,
last
that's
Joe
true.
Rogan episode had some guy on that was like some physicist, like super brilliant, smart guy. When they go and have like a gathering, there's like 12 people that come,
Yeah.
because there's only that many. But he started his own podcast because he's into it, he likes it, he's doing it, and it's funny because what you're talking about right here is very similar to what him and Joe were talking about. And we're saying that, just the access to the people that
Yep.
you're interviewing, and being able to go to and say, hey, this guy knows what I want to learn, let's reach out to him, and they're more willing to come on and talk on a show type environment instead of just like, hey, you want to grab lunch? Can I?
Yeah.
It's really is. It's a very amazing networking tool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
and
you've
that-
got to, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's really been the experience on this show too. We're 120 some episodes in, and a number of people who've been on our show have turned into business contacts and things. Sort of to your point. And I mean, up to and including you. I mean, we're having this conversation with you as advocates for podcasting and the future of the medium. And so we want to talk to you about all these great reasons to use podcasting and why people should want to be booked on shows and things like that. So I love this conversation and what we're talking about, because it's
I think open your mind to bigger things and think of it less as show plus audience equals downloads. There's many ways to skin this cat.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, it's not unlike getting thumbs up on Facebook or whatever, right? I mean, those likes don't amount to a whole hill of beans. And same thing with a ton of downloads. I mean, but maybe a ton of downloads will be your end game. Maybe that's what you're looking for. But like you're saying, I mean, with a much smaller niche audience, you may be able to find business or work or relationships or whatever that could be worth a lot more than whatever you were going to make off a few downloads.
Yeah, you can also turn it into content. You can get a transcript from every episode. Look at what we've got now. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to take a screenshot. There, now I've got some social media stuff. You've got the audio. You can put it on, like you said, YouTube. Then that's going to be the second largest search engine in the world. People are going to find you. If I use keywords in this, a podcast guest booking agency, and that goes into show notes, when people are searching that, I'm going to show up in show notes. So you've got your content, you've got your repurposing, you've got your relationship building. There are so many things you can get from one single podcast episode. You can pull it. What I've just said there, that's a quote. I can pull that quote. I can stick it on an Instagram. I can send it out. I can use a hashtag. Podcasts, I get so excited because there's so much that you can do with it.
So say for example, Ryan and I don't have the show, don't have the studio, never podcasted before. What would you tell us or advise us to do to get started?
Just to start a podcast?
Yeah. The random Joe
Well,
Schmo
so
that's never had one before.
Yeah, somebody comes to you off the street and they're looking to get into podcasting because they heard their mom say how cool podcasts were. And what should they know? Where would you start if you were trying to consult somebody or coach somebody through getting started?
You know what? Before I threw the Met Gala, I would go to the Met Gala. So I would go on other people's podcasts and see how it works and be the guest angle, so you know what to do as a host.
True.
That is one way to do it. And I don't think people think about that. I think that they think that they have to do this giant production from scratch, this behemoth of a beast. But just dip your toe in the water and give it a go. See, because podcasting is a long haul. You guys have done more than 100 episodes. And if you are in it for the long haul, you need to figure out what the goals are, who you want to talk to, what the structure of it is, what goes into it. So give it a try first, because there's this thing we call pod fade.
I know all about pod fade.
Pod fade. And so that's just, you start a podcast, you go in all gung-ho and then discover, oh my God, this is so much work. I can't put out an episode for the rest of my life. And then you just ghost. Pod fade.
We kind of inherited this studio because of our podcast, and it's kind of my baby, and I rent it out and I work with other podcasters who want to start shows, and Podfade is the biggest thing I have to deal with is
Yeah.
they'll get in and they have 10 episodes or something, and then they run out of guests,
Yeah.
or they realize that, oh yeah, this is a lot of work, and then they don't want to keep putting that much work into it. So do you have any
Pod,
suggestions to kind of avoid that from happening, or maybe I don't,
yeah. Do
yeah.
your research up front so you know what you're getting into, and then you can make decisions based on that. Also, you don't have to do a weekly show. Take that out of your mind. You can do a monthly show. You can do a bi-weekly show. You can batch record and do 12 episodes and release it as a season. Again, think of it in a different way. It's not a network TV model that you have to fit into somebody else's rules. Make your own rules, but just make it consistent.
Yeah,
If
no, I
you
think
want to
that's a
do
really good point.
and the biggest question I see in all the Facebook groups is, how long is the ideal length for a podcast? None.
Whatever you want it to be.
The answer is, who cares?
Well, I've heard people say
yeah.
that, like 15 to 20 minutes is ideal because that's your average commute time. And to me, it's like, who
To who
cares?
and
I
where?
mean, yeah, right?
To
Because
who and where? Whose average
even if it's
commute
15
time?
minutes, then you can pause a podcast and start
Yeah.
it again. You don't
Do
have
you
to
know what?
yeah.
I kind of like doing the half episode on the way to work, half episode on the way home. I'm like, oh, I'll save that for later. I don't think consumption, again, it's not TV where it's on at 9 o'clock, and if you turn it on, it's on and you've missed the beginning or you're going to miss the end. It's up to you.
Yeah,
So,
it's actually one of the
and most
things.
people binge listen. I don't listen to one episode. Keep me going. I
She
want
likes
another one,
Netflix.
another one.
Yeah.
I do like Netflix.
See, Netflix was made for someone like you.
Yeah.
No, but that's a great point, and I mean it's what I would argue as well. I mean, like I'll listen to a Joe Rogan or something that goes 3-4 hours long, but like I don't have 4 hours to just sit down and listen to your show, so I
Sitting
get
down.
in the car, I split,
Yeah.
I go to a meeting, I come back out, I listen to 5 or 10 more minutes on the way to the next place, and then I go to and I'll listen to shows, some of these shows for like 2 or 3 days, like till I get through them. But like you're saying, I mean, it's almost like kind of fun. You get to go back and resume your show every time you get back in the car, and I mean, really, the technology is pretty great for all that.
And that's why podcasts, I love them as opposed to other media, because on the Netflix, I have to sit there and I have to watch it. And
Yeah.
I can't do it while I'm driving. I can't. Some people do. I'm sure that they do. I don't.
Oh,
But
I've got a DVD player in my car, and Redbox is my favorite thing.
what?
I have the bypass switch, and no, I'm joking.
So, and reading, like I said, reading an article, you're going to skim it. You're going to see a couple of keywords. You're going to, like, at least with podcasts, you're actually consuming it and you remember things. Good luck remembering a quote that you read in an article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll remember what someone said. Like, for example, that elevator thing, I might not get it right. And if they use better keywords, I might have been able to quote that. That's got to do with your sound bites and your messaging and getting prepared to be on a podcast.
Well, I can't tell you how many
story.
times I'll be having a conversation with someone like you and remember an episode of someone else that I was listening to, and then I have to pull it up and remember it, but it's in my head. I remembered that much, and I can do the research to figure out, oh, that was his name. This was the topic. This was the show he was on, and put it all together. But it's amazing how much stuff I've just been able to kind of learn, not necessarily like retain, but it's in there. And oh, I remember that, and then I can kind of go from there.
And I want to use Vayner as an example. If you read him, you would not have the same impression, and I don't know if he would be as popular as he is if you didn't hear his voice, because you can't hear that passion from words.
Yeah, no, it's
So
true.
I know he does lots of videos. I get that. I'm a fan. But you can get that from podcasts. That's something you can get from podcasts, and you'll know if you like someone as a host or as a guest, because you can hear their voice, you can hear their passion, you can hear their vocab, which is different than them professionally typing something out that they've thought of. And you're going to like someone or you're not. Like, there's people watching this that will be hating my guts right now. Great, see ya, bye. To the people that love me, they're going to want more. And that's great, because you're my people and I'm yours too. So it attracts the people that you want, and it gets rid of the people that you don't. And that is benefit for everyone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's actually been one of the things that's been kind of exciting or, interesting about our journey in podcasting, because we began life as sort of a marketing creativity podcast back in the early days. And then we evolved into, having guests on to interview, and we noticed the show got better with other guests. And then we started having really diverse guests, people from all kinds of different walks of lives and backgrounds and things. And we found that, as humans, we get more and more out of the show all the time because of the people we have on. as much as anything, and connecting with their audiences and vice versa, So, I mean, it's been a really cool journey.
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's having people at the party instead of talking amongst yourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about it. So you did get into a little bit, that being on a podcast isn't necessarily all about the downloads, but I want to get into maybe like the strategy of a guest, So as somebody who books podcasts for, presumably for your clients, you're booking them onto shows.
Mm-hmm.
How do you choose the show? How do you make decisions in terms of what is the best show for your client if it's not being based on a metric like number of downloads or whatever else?
So the first thing when we have a new client is, who are you trying to reach and what action do you want them to take when you reach them? That's the first thing. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? And what do you want them to do? That's pretty basic.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's, okay, well, this is the type of show that you're going after and this is the type of topic. So then the first thing is, some of it just seems so basic, but it's so important. So do they have guests on the show? You'll be surprised how many shows there are that get pitched and they don't even have guests. So we go through a whole system of like, do they have guests? Are they active? We're talking about pod fading before. Was the last episode 2 years ago? No, not okay. Is it a show with 1 episode? Well, are they going to pod fade? They might. Is the show run by Oprah? Okay, well, with 1 episode on Oprah, that's fine. Or are they 150 episodes in? Okay, well, they're in for the long haul. Then you look at, they're 150 episodes in. My guy's talking about real estate, for example. Have they had a real estate person in the last however many episodes? Are they talking about the same thing? So you've got to look at your guest. Does the show fit your guest, and does your guest fit the show? So there's a bunch of cross criteria that you need. And does it sound good? If it sounds like a dog's breakfast, I'm not even going to pitch.
I cook some good stuff for my dogs.
Is that a non-American saying? Sometimes I have these crazy things and I'm like, is that?
No,
like,
I've not heard.
I've never heard that, but I might use it again.
Like
Yeah,
a dog's
pretty great.
breakfast? A mess. Well, you guys say everyone and their brother, and we say every man and his dog.
Yeah, no, it's funny the differences like that.
Yeah.
I used to work with a lady who used to always say from hell to breakfast.
Oh,
And
okay.
I spread all over from hell to breakfast. And it's like,
Oh, right.
It doesn't even make any sense to me, but now I use it all the time.
A lot of Australian sayings involve swearing, so I really have to manage myself on the shows in case like one slips out. And they'll sound ruder than they mean. So there's a whole there's a lot of things, but you can also, with someone like me, I can look at something and I can get all this information quickly.
Sure.
Like just as a glance of an eye, I'll see 10 things. Show artwork, title of the show, title description, episode description, past guests, what the audio sounds like. And I can hear something in 20 seconds of audio that most people can't. I can hear when the edits are, I can hear when the breaths are, I can hear if the music's underneath, if the music goes too long, all these different things. So there's a lot that goes into, this is even before you decide, am I going to pitch that show?
So in addition to guesting, do you, or like setting people up as guests, do you help produce shows for people as well?
No, I've retired from being a podcast producer after I did the network stuff. It's something I can do, but I will help people with concepts, but I no longer, editing is a beast unto itself that I no longer wish to do because
sure,
it's a job.
Yeah,
we know someone that could help out with that.
Yeah, I got two editors sitting in the room.
That needs to go to the people that are as passionate about editing as I am about podcasting.
Yeah. So speaking about, just helping people concept and come up with ideas.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people trying to get a show going and want to stand out? Are there any? I don't want to call them tips and tricks because I think you have to be a little more authentic than that. But I mean, can you think of any ways, just from your experience, that would be things to keep in mind if you're hoping to stand out as a podcast?
Okay, so the first keyword there is stand out. So standing out from who? Standing out from what? So in order to stand out, you need to figure out what the base level is. So are they going up against other people to compete with them, or are they producing something individual for their market? Like, who are you? You have to ask yourself the questions up front to know where you're trying to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, so then I guess in terms of that, like, would you advise, so, we were talking a little bit about being able to detect the type of quality of show and things like that you're booking people on, that sort of thing. Do you, and maybe this is too, going back to your producing days too much, but
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who kind of quit before they ever get started. You're talking about pod fade, but I know a lot of people who've talked about doing a podcast and end up quitting before they even get started because the production hurdles or whatever it takes to get something off the ground. I mean, what are your thoughts about show quality? I mean, in our case, we happen to be really lucky. We have a great, co-host who's an engineer here. We have great engineering help. We have the best equipment you can buy. I mean, it's as good a setup as we could get. But for most people, there's versions of podcasts that you just do on your iPhone sitting in a closet. Like, I mean, would you encourage somebody to go forward even if they can't do like full studio production, as long as they have a good message or they're doing something strong, instead of, I guess, not doing it until they could get the production in line?
Okay, so I'm going to say something unpopular here. I don't think you should be doing the show on the iPhone in your closet. And I think that, yes, there is the get started with what you've got, but it doesn't take much to get started. Like, I would never do an interview without headphones and a mic, just straight into my laptop. But this microphone that I've got right now is the ATR 2100. That's like $50.
Yeah.
So there is a low barrier to entry and you can still sound really good. Like, this is not the high, like, I'm in New York right now. This is my traveling mic setup that I can just fit in my bag, but it's just hooked straight into the laptop. So, but it's still achievable, achievable amount to get started with, but still sounding good. So I don't think low quality mean you can have low cost and high quality. I don't think they're separate.
Many times we'll have guests on and they have the iPhone earbuds in their ear and they're plugged into their laptop. And there's only so much you can do with that audio because you don't get a full spec. Your frequency range is cut off because you're talking into a mic that's tiny. But a $50 mic that you can pick up that's a USB mic makes all the difference in the world compared to a headphone earbud or talking into your laptop. Granted, it's doable. We work with it all the time. We can fudge around with the EQ and make it sound all right. But if you can spend $50, if you're not willing to put $50 into a piece of equipment that you need for something you're trying to do as a business, you're not going to. If you can't put $50 into something,
that's what I mean. So, do I think an iPhone in your closet with earbuds? I would say no to that. I wouldn't interview someone if they were doing it on a laptop without headphones. You're better than me. I would decline that. And so this was like, this little pop cover is like $3. The stand, I'm sure, is 10. The mic's 50. The headphones, these are radio ones, but you can get, the headphones don't matter as much as the microphone does. So I think that if you're doing it to release it, you need that. If you're doing it to practice, go nuts. Just do it on your computer with your earbuds. If it's just for practice that you're not releasing, that's absolutely the best way to get started. Yeah. And you can do that because no one's listening. No one's going to release that. Do 20 episodes. Who cares? Until you decide that you're not going to be sick and get nervous from going live.
Sure. Well, and I think I'm inclined to agree with you too, that just, I mean, even though there is a version of this that you can do cheap or free, with your iPhone or whatever, I think, not only is it a sign of commitment, but it's also like a little bit of I guess maybe like a respect or something to the medium that you're willing to invest, a couple shekels to try and make yourself sound good on somebody else's production that they're trying to make sound good. So I think that that's a good point.
And think of pod fade. We were talking about that earlier. It's going to be someone that had a microphone that they used once and buy it secondhand.
If you jump on Craigslist, KSL, OfferUp, whatever, there's millions of cheap mics, sound cards, anything you can want for next to nothing. I mean,
look for the pod fade people, look on Amazon, buy it secondhand, set yourself up because you're going to do a better interview if you've got something like this, which honestly, this is the basic level. This is not fancy pants. You guys are fancy. I'm not.
Well, and maybe that's a good place to transition into, why a guest might want to come on a podcast, for example, using it. I mean, obviously public relations or personal growth, or brand, developing a personal brand, things like that might be reasons or objectives people are doing podcasts. And I guess to that end, if you are doing that, you would want yourself to sound as good as possible. So it makes sense to, buy at least some kind of decent equipment. But can you talk about sort of the public relation opportunities for podcasting, like why guests should be considering podcast as a medium anyway?
Yeah, but just to go back really quickly on that, also it's subliminal. If people hear you and you sound crap, they won't know why, they won't know what it is, they won't know what's wrong, they'll just get this uncomfortable feeling and then they'll relate you to that. So the sound that in the audio setup you have is a reflection on you. So, but part of the reason people go on podcasts is to position themselves as an expert in their market, because it is media, even though it's self-produced media. So you're elevating what you have to say. You've then got a platform for 30 to 60 minutes to speak deeply about something. You've got that know, like, and trust factor. You can turn it into multiple pieces of content. It positions you to move up in the media as well. So you can leverage to the next level like you're not going to get on Joe Rogan immediately. There's a long, like even Oprah wasn't Oprah when she started out, right? So she wouldn't have gotten on her own show as a guest. So you've got to like take the journey to like up level. And you want to be able to nail it when you get to that level. So you need those practice interviews to get there. Then
sure. Well,
yeah.
So I guess then to that end, like, how do you know when your podcast's ready? Like, how do I even know that I have any business being on a podcast? Like, when do you know?
So you need to have your messaging in place. You need to know who you want to talk to, what you want to talk to them about, and what action you want to take, what them to take as a result of you being on the guest. As a result of you being a guest on the show, you need to be able to speak confidently on your talking topics. So a lot of people are experts, but they come to me and say, I'm an expert in this. I've written a book, but I don't know what to talk about. So you need to break it down, and then you need to put it into hooks to sell that to the media for them to say, yes, we want you to come on this show. And then you need to have your sound bites ready. So when you go on the show, you're able to get that message across, stay on message and get it through to the people repeatedly. So they're going to remember that, oh yeah, I remember that guy talking about that however many episodes ago. And when they start plugging it in, what you've said is going to be, SEO, because those keywords are in there.
So
you need to be ready.
We've talked about the benefits of networking and how that could turn into monetization down the road with outside of the podcast. Or you meet this guy, it turns into something later. Can you talk a little bit about monetizing an actual podcast? Some steps you could take to bring some income coming into it.
So, do you mean things other than downloads? Is that what you mean?
Well, downloads, things other than, well, I mean, yeah, because there's, you can do live events and charge tickets. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. But in your past, what would you recommend, like from your experiences?
So the first thing that people think of is downloads and CRM and advertising. Then you could do sponsored advertising, which is if you guys say a commercial during it, as opposed to an ad that somebody else produces. So they're the two kinds of commercials that go into a podcast. The other ones are affiliate deals, where if there's, I don't know, whatever coffee company, and then use the coupon code EGGS.
Dude, we've got such a long little joke going with that Fresca can. We've been doing that for like, we made an ad for it and we're not even sponsored by them. We just did it for fun.
Okay, so that's actually not a joke. You can do that, send it to them, and people have gotten deals from doing something like that because you've picked up a product that you actually use and like. You've then made it in advance for them, and then like you're the exact person that they want. And then you can attach a coupon code to that. And then, hello, I just saw it, your video in addition to audio on a podcast. That's product placement. Then it becomes like perfect, gold. I'll take 2, thanks.
Yeah, no, we actually dubbed it the official soft drink of the end of summer, because for the last 8 or 10 episodes, I've had a can of Fresca.
You guys need to contact them. You're crazy if you don't.
I hashtagged them the other day. So
exactly, and that's how you do it.
Just once. So, anyway. So,
and then, live performances. That's another way that you can go and then record the show at live performances, charge tickets for that. People often do merch. People are doing Patreon. These are the baseline things that people do from podcasts. But like we said,
In
Speaking
your
gigs,
experience, what did you do did you monetize a podcast, or did you just, are you more the talent agency and that's where your monetization comes from, is the
yeah.
booking
Well,
side of things?
the 8 podcasts that I produced were an internal podcast for an agency. So they had sold them, like some of them were mid 6-figure podcasts that they sold to a brand, produced the show, and then pushed it out across the network. So that is a different beast that most people at their level don't have access to.
Sure.
The other ones were in-house podcasts where they would get guests on the show and then advertisers would pay to sponsor that show. So they would have host read ads. They weren't programmatic ads. So they're the type of ones that I did for the network.
Yeah, so it's a
yeah.
little bit different scenario then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like we
go ahead.
said, monetization just from relationships, getting someone on the show and then you sell them, then they become a client, and that could be a $20,000 client. That
Sure.
is result of a podcast that is not a download related result.
Yeah.
Or affiliates.
Well, who was it? Was it Tim, the from the computer website guy, Tim Bolton. We had a guest on a long time ago that did the app for Supercuts, and he's an app developer and stuff. And his point of view when we had him on was like, yeah, I've done a lot of these podcasts. I jump all around and do them, but all it takes is one client, one person hearing me that wants to use my service doing apps, and they'll make all that time worthwhile. One.
And exactly. So if you look at it in that way, the ROI is big. Also, speaking gigs, a lot of people leverage podcasts for speaking gigs, and they will put podcasts on their media page as an example of what they can do for speaking gigs, and they leverage that into bigger things. And then we've been talking about partnerships and affiliate deals. So if someone comes on your show as a guest and they're selling whatever course, and then they buy that course through you, you might get a 50% affiliate deal of whatever they're selling.
So I've heard who's the Comedy Bang Bang is like one of the biggest podcasts out there right now.
Yeah.
I've heard that they actually will charge their guests sometimes to have them come on and be a part of that show.
Yes.
Have you heard that? Is that like?
Yes. It's only recent in the last few years, and people that I've booked clients on shows didn't charge, and then they have charged. But because we've had we usually don't usually do pay for play. That's not, we don't go after that. It's only if they we call it a pitch back. If we pitch a show and then come back and saying, actually, it's X amount of dollars to go on this show, we will have a look at it. Some clients have paid. Some clients will decline, but when they do that pitch back, they will need to show you all the stats and everything
Of what they're getting out of it.
Yeah.
So why would I pay you money? X. Okay, we get so
and
many
sometimes
plays.
it is worth it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is worth it. Sometimes it is not. But some people charge $5,000 to be on their show.
Well, the Comedy Bang Bang one was $10,000. To have a guest come and be a guest on that show, $10,000.
But
isn't it crazy?
I would say it sounds crazy, but I also let me see the numbers. Maybe it's not.
I mean, I guess if it's $10,000 investment that will net you $100,000, then
they literally broke that comic. Like, I can't remember the guy's name, but they were
so then yes.
Yeah.
What would it cost you to break that comic? What would it cost you? You'd have to have a PR person. You'd have to have so then you've just said that it is worth it, I think.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know the stats and facts behind it.
Sure.
But
in principle, anyway.
Have a background as an agent. So I took that $5,000 and I went, okay, well, what about this? And then I presented an affiliate deal, which then brought down that cost. So things are negotiable. You don't have to accept the terms. Know that that's the starting point. Go in. It might work, it might not. But if you've got something to play with, an offer that will make them money, that is worth it as well.
Sure.
So I guess then to sort of transition to another topic, you mentioned, you're an agent. How do I, as a podcast guest, know when it's time to consider hiring a talent booker or publicist versus just doing it myself? Can you, I guess, help me understand at what level I need to be at before it makes sense to start engaging some professional help?
I would think, how many hours are you spending doing it? What is the purpose of you? Is it just for exposure or other things? What shows have you been getting on? Are you doing it yourself? Do you have a VA doing it? Do you have an assistant doing it? what range of shows have you been getting on, and do you have a PR or marketing budget for that purpose, and what do you have in place to support it? So again, if you get on a show and you don't have the talking points, the strategy, the landing pages, everything in place, then it's just been a nice chat.
Yeah.
So if you're ready to hire a PR person or a booker to get you on shows, what support around that appearance do you have to make sure that it works for you? Because other people will come back and say, oh, well, I went on this podcast and I didn't sell 1,000 books. Okay, fine. But did you do A, B, C, D, E, F, G supporting that media that you had?
Yeah, they might have had 1,000 people reach out, but not know where to go or what to do or how to buy the book.
There was no landing page in place or anything.
And if you get the interview, in the agency, we call it winging it is a waste. If you haven't done your research and haven't done a good job getting the interview isn't the end. Doing the interview is a big part of it, and then after the interview as well. So did you hit your messaging? Did you hit your talking points? Did you do your call to action? Did you say the book through the interview? Did you get those keywords in there? So you need to nail the interview once you're in it, and then you need to be able to leverage it once you're out of it too.
Do you have any
go ahead. I was just going to say, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. I think podcasting is, people still think of it as on your iPhone under a blanket in your cupboard. And if you treat it that way, that's what it is. But if you treat podcasts as a media outlet and landing earned media and using it as a PR strategy, then you need to action it as such.
Right. Do you have any recommendations for finding guests and getting more, what's the term? It's not like higher level guests, like getting access to people who would elevate your show with them coming on it?
So let's equate this to the party scenario we were talking about. If your party is at home in your studio apartment, is Oprah going to show up? Probably not.
Dude, I got a pretty dope apartment. I'm just
We got Gail King last summer, but that was as good as it got.
I'm using again, if you are the Met Gala, is Oprah going to show up?
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Who are you and who are you inviting and what have you got to offer? If you want an awesome high level guest, they're going to want to know when you outreach their people, because you're not going to be, hi Oprah, come on my show. You need to go through the gatekeepers to get there, but you are then pitching them to be a guest on your show. So what are your download numbers? They're going to cross-check and verify. They're going to go to your website, go to your socials, listen to other shows, see who the other guests are. They're going to, like I do when I outreach to get people to get my clients on shows. If you are inviting someone to be a guest on your show, they're equally going to vet you. Yeah. And what are they getting out of it? Like if Oprah, if I've got the Kelly Glover show and I'm inviting Oprah and I've got 2 listeners, good luck.
Yeah, very true.
And are they promoting something?
That's another thing.
The biggest celebrities will not do it if they haven't gotten. I've outreached to people, and the response I've gotten when I've been booking A-lists is, thanks for the offer, X celebrity is not promoting anything at the moment.
So I'm going to share a little trick that I kind of do. I'll listen to other podcasts and see what the guests are and see if they're pitching something. And if they're pitching something and it's a current podcast, I'll reach out to them because they've already been on another show. They've already been promoting their book tour or this or that. And if they're in the process of doing it right now, their mind's in the mindset of, sure, what's one more podcast? And so if I can who's on
a publicity tour? Who's on a publicity tour? Go to Amazon. What books have been out? Go to news on Google. What products are coming? Who's doing a product launch at the moment? Like Amy Porterfield's doing a product launch at the moment. She's been on podcasts.
Yeah.
If she's not launching
band just
something,
dropped a new album. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just pay attention.
You know what it is? People don't talk about it. It is it's buying and selling. Who's buying? Who's selling? And it depends which side of the fence you're on as to what you're doing. If I'm pitching a guest to a show, I'm selling.
Yeah.
If I'm asking people to be guests on my show, I'm still selling. So the role of the buyer and the seller changes depending on what your role it is and within the transaction.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, so I guess let's talk a little bit more about that pitching. One of the little bullets that we had on you was to ask about the 7 items that need to be included in a press kit. Can you go into that at all?
Yeah. So you guys would have got it when I do something called a media vault, because as a producer, I
Yeah,
reverse
it's very cool, by the way.
Yeah. So because I was a producer, I reverse engineered what I would want in a guest, what I would want to know in one spot. So, and the Media Vault has all the things that you need to when you're pitching a show. So the first thing is you obviously need, like, what do you want to talk about? And a topic is not the same as a talking point, right? So a topic could be business. I want to come on a show and talk about business. If the answer is who cares, you shouldn't be pitching. That should not be in your pitch. It needs to be more specific. So the pitch will have what benefit. It's also kind of a bit, what is the problem of the audience and what is your solution? So that is part of like the pitching of you being on a show. But as part of the media kit, you need your headshots, you need your one sheet, you need your logo, you need recent media that you've been on, you need a scheduling link, you need recent articles that you've written. And that's everything that should be in the media vault. All your socials in there, because if you've got a company and you're an individual and you have like 8 socials for each of them, as a producer, I don't want to go around. No, I don't want to, but you'll save me hours of time if you just have those links straight there.
Can you talk about the differences between a good press kit and a bad one? Like, what would turn you off if you were to get a press kit? And
I don't really want testimonials because I don't care. Like, I will vet you myself, and just because Bob of whatever said that you were awesome about your book, that doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, but Bob's a good friend.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
he's a decent guy. He really is.
What makes a good press kit is removing the research that the host needs to do in the first place, because this is just for them to be like, yes, I'm interested, to move to the second point. It's not going to get you a one sheet, and a pitch is just for them to move to the next stage, which is vetting. It's not for the yes.
Yeah.
Because people will look into, any good host will always look further. So
well, see, we made that mistake a few times early on in the show. We didn't, sure, we'll have it. And then we were like,
yeah, especially early on when we were really hungry for a guest, and it was like, come on, we got to get somebody. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't do a lot of digging.
So what did the guest do that made them not worthwhile?
Talk in the third person.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike beats the drum on this particular one a lot.
No. This is good because it's a good example. This is a great example, right?
Yeah.
Because so the spoke in the third person. What are the other what have been disappointments in guests that you've had on the show, and what would have? Now I'm like turning it on you guys.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
What would you have liked? What would you have liked to have seen so that mistake wouldn't have happened?
Well, it really came down to us, as we didn't take the time to vet them in the first place, and so that's our bad. So we had to sit through that hour of third person talking. But it's just, after that is when we kind of started paying attention to it and started, oh, okay, this matters. We really need to know who we're dealing
So what
with.
matters? Tell me what matters. Tell me what you guys are looking for in a guest. When you get an email pitch, what is it that you're looking for? What turns you on and what turns you off?
Yeah, generally speaking, we're looking for people who are sort of professionals, in their space, expert in their space. We do have people on from a lot of different walks of life. Basically, our premise is that, we sort of all have the same creative juice in us, but how we manifest it is different based on who we are or what we do. So we have everyone from CEOs on to, venture capitalists, real estate
to
investors,
radio DJs.
Musicians, people who pursuing a music career, all that stuff. And so we try and look at all the building blocks of every person's different activity. And so as we have guests on, that's one of the things we look for, people who are sort of proficient. We'll often sort of vet their social presence, kind of get an idea for are they going to be capable or willing to sort of share this around and help drive a little bit of traffic too.
I'll actually go as far to listen to other shows that they're on, just to see how they talk, see what their talking points are, and get ideas for questions to ask them. It depends on the guest, but I'll go down rabbit holes.
So I think where this is everything that you've just said, yes. And this is what for the Media Vault, like anyone can make one. I just made it and put it on my website, but it answers all those questions that you've got in one page. So by having a podcast interview or video on there, that answers the question, can they talk? Do they talk in the third person? What do they sound like? Are they proficient? That answers all those questions, and you can watch that for 30 seconds and get that answer. Producers love that because I've just saved you that rabbit hole of 30 minutes trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Social presence. I have to look through your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your YouTube, your Pinterest. That's 6, right? That I can just think of. And then there's the personal one, and then there's the business. That's 12. So instead of you having to look at it and find out they've got all different social media names, click, 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 done.
Boom, they're done.
So you've looked at your social, you've seen how they talk, you've seen, and then talking points. On the Vault, I'd have those talking points. I'd have topics and then 5 talking points under each one. So on the one sheet, you might have 5 things in total as an overview, but in the Vault, you might have 30 things. And then that doesn't mean the interviewer is going to use them, but it just gives them an idea for talking points, what they can talk on. And then you can come up with your own ones. Like, it's not telling you to do it, but it's just, here's an example.
Yeah, it's interesting because in we've done 120 some shows. That's been roughly around 100 different guests who've come on, and of those hundreds, you're the first person I think to do this sort of Media Vault idea.
Yeah.
With a lot of our guests, we get a one sheet or some kind of bio written up by their publicist
and
or
the
agent
quality of the one sheets vary from guest to guest. Do you sit down and do it with them? Do you do it for them?
With my clients, I do you can tell I like asking hard questions, and I'm very forward about it. So I will like keep digging and digging and digging and digging until and I call it pulling out the golden threads. Like I will ask until we get like a golden nugget, and then that's going to be your talking point. Because if you come to me, I talk about business. No, not going on the one sheet. That's a category. That's not a talking point. So you need to get it down. And then what I do, I have quite a talent for hooks and headlines. Okay. So then I'll get what you can talk about, and then I'll turn it into, I call it clickbait that actually delivers. And that's going to be your subject lines, because that's so important in writing a pitch. Like podcast guest Kelly Glover. Who cares? I don't care. I do not care about that. I might not even read it. So you need an awesome subject line, and then you need to this is for because you need to be prepared to pitch, you need to write the pitch, and then you need to be prepared for the interview, right? Like it's a whole process, and nailing it is really important. So yeah, you've got to make sure that messaging is on point, and your call to action's on point, and your sound bites are on point.
Well, and can you, it's maybe a little hard to, talk about it in a hypothetical way, but can you drill down on some of those things, like developing a call to action or developing your voice? Like, it's one thing if they can reach out and hire somebody like you, but maybe early in their career, they're just trying to get going. They're trying to, start reaching out and maybe start developing their voice. Do you have any kind of pointers or ideas that might help people try and develop that or find that voice in themselves?
So I would look at you kind of need to do a personal brand audit and a content audit. Like you need to see, what am I working with here? Are you a fully developed brand, or are you just starting out with things here, there, and everywhere, which we all do in the beginning, and then we work and work and work and work and work. So what is your messaging right now? If you've written a book, pull out the book chapter headlines. What blog posts have you had? What headlines have you used in the blog post? Something that I do, some of the questions that I ask my clients would be, what do people ask you about the most? Because that's what they want to hear from you, and that's what they deem you to be an expert in, right? So if people are always asking you about tax tips, or they're always asking, I want to send my child to college, how do I save for that? I don't know, whatever it is, if that's the thing you should be talking about, because that's what people are interested in. And then I'll also flip that and say, I love this question so much. What is nobody talking about but should be? Because that's your gap. If everyone's talking about the same thing, real estate investing with $1,000, then you shouldn't be talking about that, because it's highly competitive. It's already been done. So what is you can do counter pitching and talk about what no one else is but should be. So there's a lot of ways to pull out your topics, and I go big, get so many, and then like bring them back in until you boil it down into here's the 5 things that I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
like
love that.
Yeah.
Well, and so I guess so one of the things too that maybe it plays into this a little bit is, I think sort of there's a lot of people who know that they need to be doing some kind of outreach or doing some sort of media, whether it's podcasting or some other platform. But a lot of them struggle with sort of this imposter syndrome, and we hear about this a lot lately. I think because people are doing more and more media, but we're hearing a lot of stuff about that. And I think that in some cases, anyway, that helps or hurts people or makes it difficult for people to drill down to their expertise or whatever, because they sort of feel like a charlatan talking about it, even if it's something they work with. Maybe they work in that industry, but they don't see
I feel like
themselves
that,
as,
and I'm in audio.
well, and that's what I mean.
Like I know a lot about it, and I feel like I'm sometimes the imposter syndrome of the audio guy.
Well, and that's the thing. You just sometimes don't see yourself as the expert, even if you are the expert. Any steps or any ideas on overcoming something like that for, I guess, extroversion for introverts?
Yes. So this is an exercise again that I do with my clients and even myself. Like everybody feels the same way. Everyone feels like they're going to get a tap on the shoulder one day and be like, we know you actually don't know what you're doing. Yeah. So I feel that all the time. But so something that, again, I've just made this up. I don't know how I invented it, but I just changed the name. So I'll talk like this is kind of a bit third person stuff, right? So I would pretend. You should have vetted me further, fellas.
Kelly has things to say.
But I'd just give it a different name. So I would write, let's say Susan, right? So then I'd be like, oh yeah, Susan, she runs her own talent squad agency. She went to the radio school that only take 10 people a year. She used to be an entertainment reporter and interview A-list celebrities. She was a tour guide in Europe for a year. She lost 200 pounds. And I would think, oh my God, Susan is amazing. But really, that's all the stuff that I've done. So if you just change the name of the stuff that you've done to someone else, and how would you view that person if you just met them and they told you that? And then you'll realize heaps of stuff. Like you with the audio stuff, change your name to Bob. I always love Bob as an example. And if
I told you Bob's a pretty good guy.
Great dude.
Hi, I'm Bob. I blah, 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 blah. You would be like, wow, Bob's amazing. Well, that's you. And that's what people see of you.
Yeah.
So like if you just flip the name and also giving yourself advice. Like I'm a freaking genius at giving advice. I will solve all your problems. They call me the fixer, right? I will solve it. I'll give you $1 million ideas. You'll go and make $1 million. Fine. But for myself, I can't do that. So sometimes you need to make yourself your own client or flip it around to be able to get, what advice would I give Bob? Well, I'd tell Bob to do A, B, C, and D. Okay, well, that's what you should be doing because you can't see outside of your own. You can't help yourself sometimes.
Very true.
Yeah, it makes sense. So
that's
I mean,
like
if I'm hearing you right, then Mike, you need to become Bob.
Yeah.
What about Bob?
No, I want actually. Let's do this.
So
let's do this.
Host Bob.
So imposter. Well, we'll give you an Australian name, Wayne.
Wayne. I like
Wayne.
Looks like a Wayne.
So like, pretend your name's Wayne. Tell me, be like Wayne, and then you say you've got imposter syndrome. So what is the stuff that? Tell me what you do. Tell me all the stuff that you do. Wayne.
No
Wayne does
excuses,
this.
Wayne.
So Wayne got asked to teach at a college in a month and to talk about audio. And now I'm going and reading my books again, trying to make sure that when I talk to these students, I'm giving them legit stuff.
Yeah, Wayne, you should.
No. You're going out of character. So Wayne. So you're telling me
Wayne
that
is a bad actor. Wayne
No. Oh, you guys, you're killing me.
He's already firing you. And you're not even a client yet.
So Wayne has been invited to speak at a college on audio.
Yeah.
He must know like tons of stuff. That's like a college invited him to be a speaker. That is really not an easy thing to do.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Congrats, Wayne.
Yeah. Yes, and it's just.
So he must be at a high level in audio to be taken to the university. Did he do any training? How long has he been doing audio?
20 years.
He's been doing audio for 20 years.
Well, not
and was invited to be a speaker at a college. Okay.
So I've been a DJ for 20 years.
He was a DJ for 20 years.
And this is going. I don't like the questions coming back at me.
Yeah, he's actually shrinking in his chair right now.
Sorry.
So we got to
But
get
see how
Bob back
impressive
in.
that is?
There's Bob.
Bob's
Yeah,
been a
I
DJ
get
and in
what
audio for
you're
20
saying.
years, and he's been invited to speak at that you would be impressed if somebody told you that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, the first little bit when we started doing the podcasts and stuff like that, I'm the type of person that I fact check everything. I try to
Yeah.
be, and if I say something that's not legit or true or whatever, it's like I'll go back and listen to the podcast and realize, oh, I messed that up.
Oh.
And it's just it's my own internal demons is pretty
Yeah.
much what it comes down to.
But then
I wanna-
also, yeah, like, hello, I've told you already that I've put phone calls on air while I've been on air live over music. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing about radio. When it's live, you can't take it back and it's gone. So you're like,
Yeah.
it's happened. But the other thing is, you told me, tell me again how many episodes in you are?
We're at about
150?
122 or something like that.
Okay. Again, if I said,
basically
oh yeah, I've got
2 years and a couple months.
yeah. So if I said, oh yeah, I've done 120 interviews, I've got a podcast, I've done 120, you would be, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
that's-
But when it's us, we're like,
we
whatever,
could do
everybody-
better.
Yeah. But if that
Yeah.
was someone else telling you, you would think that they were pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, it makes sense. I actually think that's a pretty awesome little
Way to look
Jedi
at it.
mind trick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because it's one of these things, I think maybe it's just the narcissist in all of us, but we actually have a hard time being introverted, or not introverted, but looking inward.
I'm
like
great
that.
at it.
Yeah.
And
But that you can be an introvert and do that exercise. It's not going and talking on
Yeah.
stage not banana. What am I thinking of?
I
Coconut bra.
I thought that
In a banana suit. I was thinking like a coconut bra doing a little hula dance. Going, hey guys,
I
look
like
at me.
the image of Ryan in a banana.
banana
I
hammock.
can't even say
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, no, but I think that's
Yeah.
a nice idea, because I mean, I think, for a lot of people it is difficult. Like, I mean, most of us are a little bit narcissistic, not,
Yeah.
in a crazy way, but I mean, a lot of us secretly are narcissistic. And it's funny how, like, doing something like that, but where you're just changing your name, but
Yeah.
looking at yourself in a new light allows you to see sort of the things you couldn't see otherwise. It's an interesting idea.
And the result, if all the result is from that, I know we're playing around and I'm like crazy about it, but all the result is, oh, actually, maybe I do know what I'm talking about. That's it. That is the result of that exercise. So because the problem, imposter syndrome, the exercise, the result, yeah, actually, I do know what I'm talking about. I can do this. That's
True.
it. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
No, I love that. Well, we've
Not
talked
coconut.
about
Yeah.
this.
It's not coconut ukulele dancing on a stage in front of 20,000 people. It's not.
Yeah. No, well, and it's interesting because we've talked about the subject with a lot of different people, people trying to get into doing media and stuff like that. This is a really common issue, this idea of sort of the imposter syndrome or whatever we call it these days. And but that's actually, I think, the first time I've ever heard somebody put it that way. And I think that's a really nice thought and maybe a good thing to sort of end on.
And practice yourself. Like, I'm going to be doing a personal project for a podcast. And even I have just turned on whatever this little thing is on my Mac with the video thing and just like done a few practice runs. I haven't even recorded it. Just like I said before, not even headphones on and not even a mic connected in, just to give it a run of, oh, what do I think I might say because I want to get it right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even recording that for a few weeks. So for people that are starting out, just do that to get used to it. Like,
I'll do that if I have a conversation coming up or this talk
Yeah.
at college. I'll like role play. Like I'll kind of think about what I want to cover, and in my head I'm going over it 100 times, and it just as I'm driving or whatever. But
yeah,
I haven't gone the step of actually recording it and then watching it back, which is, I think, a key element too, because you can see, body language, you can see, inflections and listen to how you're putting it out, almost like a comedian would on stage. They
Yeah.
record their set and go back and review it.
make your mistakes when no one's watching.
Yes, that's another
the way
thing.
that's the way that I look at it. Like, do it. So what? You can record it. Even if sometimes I'll just do a 30-second or a minute just to like get it going. So by the time I do the recording, I've gotten all the mistakes out of the way, and then I've got the confidence because I've already done it, and it's not the first time that I'm saying it.
Yeah.
So like, make the mistake. Don't do it while you're on air to a million people, like I did.
It seemed to work
do it-
out all right for you.
I just like saying the weather wrong just to mess with the people.
So yeah, practice. Like,
Yeah.
who says you have to do it live the first time in front of 50,000? You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't.
I think
And then
you're
just delete it. If you feel nervous, that's what I've done. I've recorded it and I'm like, delete. No one will ever see how bad that was. No one.
right. I love that. Cool. Well, we're getting down to the end of this thing. So, hey, Kelly, do you want to just take a quick minute, let people know where they can find you, learn more about your business, all that kind of stuff? Plug anything you got to plug.
Yeah. So thetalentsquad.com/eggs. I'm going to record a special video for you guys and you can go there. And this is an example of using a call to action on a podcast. So if you want to see the video, something you guys don't know is that I've lost 200 pounds. So if you want to see the before picture of me when I was 325 pounds, you're going to have to go to talentsquad.com/eggs.
Perfect.
This is a working in action of using a call to action that is not a download.
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
Thank you.
No, that's a really great idea, and something we'll.
And
be
you'll get
stoked to share.
10% off further services with.
No, the drinks, and I want to use the drink, the fancy drink.
That's right. Oh yeah.
The only problem is the reverse camera, and it makes the
put it on
text reverse.
I think his is reversed and mine's not.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, we wanted the mics in the middle, just for aesthetics.
Yeah, if you really wanted to do it even further to get branding, I'd put it on a mic flag.
Yeah.
See, and then put the branding on a mic flag, sponsorship, because it's in the video then for a whole hour.
Yeah.
That's another way to monetize.
Yeah, it's going to be a
You're
t-shirt
welcome.
next week.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
And in the background, see your background, how it's just white? That's a sponsorship opportunity, monetizing podcasts on. Oh, hello. I do
What?
like that.
I do what I can. If I had some
It's been there
gaff
the
tape.
whole time. It's been there the whole time.
Oh, gaff
So-
tape. It just fixes everything. I coming from, yeah.
If this spills on me, we're good.
It's
So-
mostly.
The audio guys are having a conniption right now.
I know, right?
Yeah,
No
his eyes
drinks
just
in
got
the
really big.
studio.
Sweet. All right. Well, Kelly, thank you so much. Once again, the website is thetalentsquad.com/eggs if you want the little Easter egg, or thetalentsquad.com to learn more about Kelly and her agency services, things like that. If you're ready to start your personal branding journey and start getting out there on the podcast. Anything else? Where can we find you on social, Kelly?
At the Talent Squad 1 on Instagram. And
All
that's
right.
where I will put the screenshot that I took during the interview.
Ooh,
And I will
like
tag
that.
you
I like
guys
what you're
on
doing
it.
there. I like what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Hey man,
Thank
I
you so
walk my,
much.
and that's the other thing, like walk your talk. If you are an expert in your field and
Do
you
it.
say you do the thing, do the damn thing. Like
I like that.
just go the whole hog. Why not?
I love it.
What's
Cool.
the worst that can happen?
I
Take
don't
the
know.
station off air.
Yeah, I
Right.
guess we're yet to see. So,
Give
so
us
cool.
a month. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, right. We're on track for that. So cool. Well, thanks so much, Kelly. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for making this happen, and we'll do it again sometime.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Take care.
Fresca,
Fresca, the official soft drink of the end.
the
of summer.
drink of choice for eggs.
That's
Hashtag does not contain eggs.
I don't know that that's
No
true,
egg has
actually.
been
There might be
harmed
some
in the
weird
making
eggs.
of this video.
May cause peanut allergies.
It's true.
All
right.
righty.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Kelly. Appreciate you.
Thank you.